welcome.
So
Thank
good
you
to
for
see you,
joining
man.
us.
Great to
Hope
be
you
here.
hope you had a good time at the SWNAHRO conference.
Oh my God, you're throwing an incredible.
Always
We
have-
are.
Yeah, I always have a great time when I'm with
Well,
Southwest
you know.
friends.
Tattoos and everything. So, a lot of times, and this is just my perception, but a lot of times, we get to these conferences and we talk about a lot of, they're not necessarily negative, but we talk about challenges and, oh man, they're throwing all this stuff at us. I'd like to get a perspective on, I'll start with you, Mark, about what do you see as the greatest opportunity for hope in the industry right now?
Yeah, well, man, when you look around the rooms, they're full. There's a lot of first-time attendees, right, and not a lot of folks who are kind of joining our battle in the affordable housing crisis. People making friends, hungry to learn. I think that's tremendous opportunity. I also think that, when you see the tremendous affection housers have for each other, the ability to share information, I think that's becoming easier, even though it's a complicated program. So I do think there's a lot of upside. It's a great question.
I'm going to go more to the micro level and our kids. When we're out and, we see it all over the place now. Housing authorities as housing, just providing housing.
Right.
You travel across the country now, and housing agencies are providing educational opportunities, internet access, social interaction, the arts, creativity, you name it. Just today you're giving away scholarships to our kids. And that's the hope I see, is that these kids that we've been investing in for the last years, that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're going to make an impact on their lives, their families' lives, their communities' lives, and they're going to make the social arc change so that our communities are better, and their kids are going to see the fruition of all this.
You've thrown this number out several times. I can't remember the exact number. How many children are in housing?
Well, so we often talk about 3 million units that our members are serving in NARO, and 8 million individuals. Roughly, just under half of that is kids. So you're thinking, there's a lot for us to do, right? Opportunities for innovation, like Sean said. The housing authorities are not just thinking about this sort of traditional framework. They're thinking about how can they add services, how can they add value, what can folks do to support the kids, the families, the seniors, the veterans, and finding a way despite funding challenges and the kind of administrative challenges that you were alluding to.
So back up a little bit. How long have you been in the housing industry?
I started in 2000.
In 2000?
So it's 24 years.
Okay. What drew you to the industry?
Well, I don't tell the origin story that much, but I thought, is it possible for the greatest country in the world to take care of its own? And it really was a calling for me. I think the jury's still out. Some days I'm like, yeah, we could get there. I certainly see a path through. This is a tremendously challenging moment where, housing affordability is really on everybody's lips, right? Because everyone's kind of looking around going, how are we going to do this? How are our kids going to do this? And I think when the American people get their backs up against the wall, there's great opportunity. We're resolute, we solve problems. So that would be my hope.
You've traveled, Sean, across the country, crisscross. What are you hearing from housing and the communities out there across the country?
Frustration and hope. Frustration in the fact that we're in a housing crisis, that it's getting worse by the minute, that we're getting further and further behind, whether it's the amount of rent or the lack of affordable housing. And it's not just a housing problem, it's an income problem. If people had enough money, you can find the unit. It's the problem with finding the affordable unit. But the hope is that we're seeing some light with our politicians. We're seeing great strides in our communities. We just know it's going to take time. So, it's a frustrating process, but on the back end, you travel around, and Mark knows this as well as I do. We travel around and we see the great work that housing authorities are doing in redeveloping their properties and getting rid of obsolete inventory and bringing in state-of-the-art market rate type units that when you ride through, you don't know that that one's affordable housing, that public housing,
Right.
Section 8 tax credit, whatever it may be, against the market around you. So I think that's what I'm seeing, is that there's a great deal of frustration and a great deal of hope. And, you know, it makes you happy in one side, but it still just aggravates the hell out of you on the other side.
Well, and I think that's what, you know, has struck me across the industry over the last several years. We talk about affordable housing, and my fallback is affordable for who? Because it seems like affordable in California sounds a whole lot different than affordable in Kansas. And so I wonder if there's a way that, you know, what does, you know, maybe we need to zero in about a little bit about what does affordable really mean and how to achieve that. Does that make sense?
Well, you know what I'm thrilled about is just how wise our housers are in various localities, right? They know their markets, and you know, if we allow flexible regulation, they're able to figure out ways to solve the problem for their community. I think it is clear, to the point that you're making, that there's no one size fits all. Affordability is very different, and we're not building more land. Right.
Right.
So, you know, to the extent we can allow for that flexibility, that creativity, take the administrative shackles off, then housers find, you know, outstanding ways to do great things.
What do you think the greatest achievement for NAHRO has been in the last 12 months?
Oh, wow. You know, we had I could look at it a couple different ways. We have the opportunity to support our members with tremendous amount of training, and we're training at a clip like we've not seen before. I think we continue to work on our partnership with HUD. I think there's been some real movement recently with the Inspire and the HIP extensions, and I think that you have a sensibility. At least there's an opportunity to act as very close partners, which is what we are. Pleased to have one of our own as secretary right now, and you know, the Washington conference knocked it out of the park. Members were advocating. They were in their elected offices. I think that was a phenomenal, and the conference in New Orleans was absolutely off the chain, record breaking. 2,000 housers in one big, you know, glorious moment, learning a lot from each other, from the trainings provided, and you know, taking it home and finding ways to get things done. So a lot to be happy about. It's a great question.
So on your end, you know, we've come up with a 5-year plan. You want to talk a little bit about that and what that's looking for?
Sure. This is really, really exciting because, you know, we've gone through all these years, 90 years of NAHRO, and we've done it in 2-year increments. We got to start thinking bigger than the individual. You know, NAHRO is a lot bigger than me. It's a lot bigger than Mark. It's a lot bigger than all of us, because it's the cohesive fabric of all of our residents and all of our communities. So we're doing a disservice by thinking in these small increments. We need to be thinking, how do we take this community to here over the next 5, 15, 90 years? And that's what we're starting to do. We're starting to say, hey, we can't solve all these problems in 2 years. We can't solve them. We can't solve them in 5 years, but we can sure get a lot closer over 5 years. So that's, to me, as being a planning guy, that, you know, we got to have a vision. We just created a great new vision where, you know, we're thinking about all of our people, thriving communities with affordable homes for all. And that's not a 2-year diagnosis. It's a ongoing. Even when we reach it, we're going to have obsolete stuff by the time we get there that we got to keep flowing and going forward. So to me, it's super exciting, and really what's super exciting about it is the buy-in and the excitement and the passion of the housers that are, you know, wanting to be a part of this. I'm seeing something in NAHRO right now that I haven't seen in a long time. It's just, you know, an excitement, and that we're going to do this. We're going to make a difference. We see the challenge. We know it's not easy. We know that it would be here for the long haul, but we're going to be here for the long haul.
love the way Sean put it. We have to set our sights higher, right? You keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. You're not getting there. And, you know, President Guy, Senior Vice President Gilbert changed the game. We're thinking bigger, and I think we'll think bigger into the future, and I think you'll see really incredible things come out of the membership as a result.
Thinking about the future, say 20 years from now, the people that come after us and they look back on this time, what do you think that they will say about the things that we've done?
I don't know what I think they'll say. What I hope they'll say, right, is we were able to build on that, right, and that they have built on it considerably. I think there are opportunities with the advancements in technology to work faster and smarter. I think there is some opportunity with some of the new innovations in construction. I'm very interested where we go with you know, 3D printing, for example. There's one just a few blocks from my house. I'm very curious about how that goes. I believe they had some at HUD's Innovation Showcase just a couple weeks ago. So I think, you know, those are opportunities. I think, you know, there's a lot of bright young professionals coming up who are eager to make a change for the difference in this world, and I expect them to. And you know, that's kind of the human condition, right? We do the best we can, and then we absolutely expect those that come after us to do what way better, and you know, build on our successes. Hopefully, fix the mistakes that we've made, and we make plenty. I mean, you can imagine that thriving communities with affordable homes for all. It's going to take a minute, though.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more proud of our industry over the last 5 years. If you think about the challenges, and the country's gone through challenges, so I don't want to just say our challenges, but we were housing people. We couldn't withdraw from everything. We had to be there. We had to make sure people had places to live, to keep them safe. We had to keep our people safe. And we had to find new, innovative ways to do it. And I know agencies across the country, we were able to do that. We have people living here that would possibly not be living if we hadn't done our jobs, because they would have been out in the streets. They would have been out during a pandemic that could have possibly taken their lives, because we deal with children, but we also, probably a third of our people are elderly, disabled, have health conditions that they possibly wouldn't survive. We delivered food to people. We made sure that the services were there. We brought health care to people, and we changed the way we operate moving forward, and we're going to forever be more efficient. So I hope, getting back to your question, 20 years from now, looking back and thinking, I'm glad I didn't go through that, and I'm glad they didn't either. But I'm also hoping they'll be a little bit thankful for us having weathered that and created the efficiencies and the protocols going forward that will hopefully be beneficial.
So thinking about a little bit closer to the future, Chicago's coming up in a couple of weeks. What are we looking forward to that?
Well, it's right up your alley in terms of what you talked about. And the symposium is a more intimate event. NAHRO started in 1933 as NAHO, right? We didn't have the R for a while. And so to go back to our home city, to focus on small agencies, to focus on MTW, and most specifically to focus on what we call the past and future history of housing, where we've been, kind of like what you're asking about, right? Where we are now and where are we going, and have that sort of higher sight set, so that collectively we really can begin to call to mind that future and set those that come after us up very well for solving the problem. I completely believe we could solve it if we could collectively set our mind to, as American people. You know, this is an expensive problem to solve. We have to be willing to commit the resources to it. But I think fundamentally, when people really think about it, decent, safe, sanitary communities, what everybody wants, right? And they want it everywhere. They don't want to be avoiding places, right? They want to go where they please and feel comfortable everywhere. And that, why wouldn't we want that for everyone? Why wouldn't we think that kind of infrastructure, and housing is infrastructure, you know, it's a common good, right? A goal, right? That's what we're shooting for. So we are ruminating on it all the time, but we'll definitely ruminate on it together in Chicago, along with Lisa Lee from the National Public Housing Museum.
I'm just looking forward, every time this group gets together, the ball advances. If it's a football game, you know, I don't know what yard line we're on, but I know we're at least a yard further down the field every time we get together. And that's exciting because, you know, our ultimate goal is thriving community with affordable homes for all. And we're getting closer to that every time we do this. On a personal level, I'm really, really excited to have the Injustice of Place people there to talk about why rural communities are and rural sections of the country are like they are. Having grown up in a very rural Appalachian community, it's enlightening and it reinforces your thought process, but it also allows you to look back and say, okay, I hadn't thought about this. How do we make that fundamental change to make sure that all of our communities are serviced and served across the country, no matter where you're at? So I just think it's going to be a great conference. They're all great conferences, but being the little bit of a nerd I am, I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, and your point, well taken. So, they present tremendous data on what the landscape really has been, and that's what you need to learn about and attack challenges, right? We all feel some kind of way about a lot of things, right? And that's important to acknowledge as well. I think ultimately it comes down to what are the facts, how do we get here, and then collectively, how can we figure out a way to get out of those challenges? And I think a lot of the things that we feel or think aren't necessarily what resulted in what we have so far, right?
You got to have that how and that why. Once you have that, you don't want to be reproducing. Okay, you're just buying
Things
into
go
the
a little
system.
easier.
Yeah, let's break that mold and figure it out.
Okay. Wrapping it up, if you had one thing to say to everybody, what would it be right now?
Well, I always say this, lean into your superpower. It's your focus on residents. I see it time and time again, housers going out of their way to do that thing, whether it's a big thing, small thing, acts of kindness constantly. So that's A, and B, take care of yourself. So we'll have a wellness speaker closing out the event. That's going to be awesome, but it's really Chandra from CERC, Chandra Clark, immediate past president of CERC, who sort of taught me, as I've had the opportunity to see housers all across the country, the importance of focusing on your own well-being. You can't be there for others if you're not there for yourself. So those are really the two thoughts I want to leave you with. This is great questions, man.
Well, and I know I said wrapping it up, but I think that is one thing that is missing from our training. This job can be so taxing mentally and emotionally. I always tell my staff, we see the worst of people sometimes. And sometimes we carry that with us. And so, I appreciate the message, and I've noticed it tweaked a little bit over the past several months, is you've got to take care of yourself, because I don't think that's emphasized enough to executive directors, especially new executive directors, about the toll that takes.
Yeah, absolutely. A marathon, not a sprint. You said it really well. And I think we're in this other larger thing, right? And Sean alluded to COVID and what it's done to us, and we can see that we don't really know what it's done to us, but we know it's not good, right? And we've seen, a national mental health crisis. I think that will be unfolding for a while. Obviously, I hope not. But I think challenges in that area that we're discussing are going to get worse before they get better. And I think the sooner that we recognize that, to your point, the better we are. You got to pace this thing. It's a big, long-term, multifaceted project we're doing all over the country. Not getting there in a few minutes.
And the thing about housers is they care about other people and their communities more than they care about themselves. So, we were at work during all this. We leave our families to take care of other families. So if I was going to say something to the Housing Nation, it'd be thank you, because you're the glue that's holding families together. Vulnerable families, vulnerable communities, and in the long run, we're making them better. If we just get a little bit of help from the government, if we get a little bit of help from our other partners, and we're getting a lot of help, don't get me wrong, but if we want to be the nation that treats everyone correctly and everyone right, we'll get this figured out, and I think we will, because that's the foundation of this country. But housers are so just enthralled and have this passion for people, and it shows. I mean, you drive through these communities and other people see something negative and we see something beautiful, because these are kids, these are moms, these are grandmas. And whenever I go through and I do these tours and Mark does these, the first thing I look at is I say, would I let my mom live here? And almost invariably, wherever we've done these redevelopments, I'd say yes. So, and that's what's so great now, is that housers have taken this monumental task, and they've become the Samson, and they're slaying the beast. So it's awesome.
Samson. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming to
having
our
us.
show and our conference and the motivational speak. I mean, I always like it when Mark, I want everybody to close your eyes.
Yeah.
And I always have the urge to look around and like,
Who's got their eyes
who's got their eyes open? You got your eyes open, you're not following what Mark says.
But you got your eyes open.
But I got my eyes open, so it's the hair. It makes you a rebel. Well, thanks a lot again. Safe travels to your next destination. I know you guys are busy, and I thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk to us and coming out. And look forward to seeing you guys in Chicago.
This is awesome. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate Ty. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
get
so meet you there, brother.